All right, let's talk about R.J. Barrett's Toronto homecoming debut up in the 6 from the Canadian side of things with TSN 1050 radio host Matthew Cauz. Matthew, thanks for joining us, man. Happy New Year. I got to get your thoughts on this trade before we even talk about R.J. The Knicks are currently suing the Raptors. So what was your initial reaction to the trade, knowing that these two teams are caught up in a legal dispute?
Yeah, it sort of reminded me, and maybe I'm biased, that this seems like the goofiest lawsuit going on right now, where if there's all this acrimony, why are these teams trading with each other? It screams to the fact that winning and losing is much more important than hurt feelings between these organizations in what seems like the lamest lawsuit over Indiana Pacers scouting information that I believe most teams could get anyway. So, yeah, it was kind of funny when you realize they are trading partners while they're legally at odds with one another.
All right, now let's get into RJ and his debut. He had 19 and 9 in front of a sold-out crowd at Scotiabank Arena. Thoughts on his first game and him coming home?
It was really cool. I mean, maybe the coolest part, there was two of them for me. One was at the beginning of the game where the crowd was really, obviously just a loud applause. And it's kind of neat having a homegrown player actually playing in Toronto. There was times where we thought Steve Nash was going to be coming here, and I know he's not from Toronto. So that was really cool. And then at the end of the game, about 7 seconds to go, and Barrett had a couple bad turnovers in the fourth quarter, but with under 10 seconds to go in a one-point game, he hit 2 free throws, which were much needed because the Raptors were struggling from the free throw line. So that was great to see that at the end of the game, he was able to help ice the game for Toronto. All in all, just, it was a nice, fun story, one that this city needed after the Raptors lost to the Pistons a couple days earlier.
Oh, yeah. And RJ is a pressure player, man. Last year in the playoffs, he was a guy that really stepped up for the Knicks and got some big buckets. So adding him to the squad, and Immanuel Quickley as well. I think that was a great trade for the Raptors. Now let's talk about the state of this team right now. They're currently 13 and 20. They sit at 12th in the East. You think this trade is enough for the Raptors to make a run and put themselves in position to at least make the play-in?
I think it certainly can, because you're adding 2 quality pieces back, so it helps the depth of the Raptors. It also means that Dennis Schroeder can stay and come off the bench, and he's been effective in a small sample size in that role. And allows Quickley, who looks like a guy who could be the starting point guard for the Raptors for years to come. So absolutely, I think they could go on that sort of run. They were a team that made it last year. To me, though, the bigger question is, what does this mean for Pascal Siakam? You bring in Quickley, you bring in Barrett. Those guys are closer to the age of Scotty Barnes, early 20 years old players to go with Scotty Barnes. Siakam's going to be 30 years old soon. So to me, what I'm wondering about is, will Siakam eventually get moved to a team like, say, Golden State? And then if that happens, then you're talking more of a rebuild where the development of Scotty Barnes and can he get chemistry with these new players maybe is more important than wins and losses.
I love professional sports, but I hate that you're considered old at 30.
I know.
I hate it that we consider 30 old, man. Matthew, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. On Twitter at mcauz56. If you like wine, I do a wine podcast. I know that seems weird for a sportscaster, but Matt Talks Wine and Stuff with Interesting People podcast. But I have actually interviewed Drew Bledsoe and some other sports people. But yeah, mcauz56 on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it is the best place to find me. And I always appreciate doing the show and enjoy OG Anunoby. That's a great guy, great character, and a really good player that fits in well with the Knicks.
All right, Matthew, thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.